Deep in the jungle, a group of hunters capture wild apes illegally. These apes are then transported to a laboratory to be used for experiments. Inside the lab, Franklin, an ape handler, observes the behavior of one particular chimp named Bright Eyes. His colleague, Will, arrives shortly after. Will is a scientist developing a virus intended to cure Alzheimer's disease. Will watches in awe as Bright Eyes swiftly solves a puzzle with her hands. Stunned, he rushes upstairs to meet with Stephen Jacobs. He explains to Stephen that ever since Bright Eyes was injected with the ALZ-112 virus, her intelligence has dramatically increased. The virus, he says, directly enhances brain function. Will believes it could work on humans too, and potentially cure Alzheimer's. Stephen, intrigued, tells Will to present his findings to the investors who are funding the project. The next morning, Will explains to the room that previously, Bright Eyes couldn't even complete a puzzle. But after being injected with the experimental virus called ALZ-112, which repairs damaged brain cells and replaces them with new ones, her cognitive abilities skyrocketed. In simple terms, this virus could cure diseases like Alzheimer's, something no existing treatment has accomplished. The audience is captivated. Meanwhile, in the holding pen, Franklin and the other handlers attempt to retrieve Bright Eyes for the meeting. But unexpectedly, the chimp lashes out and injures one of the staff. Franklin tries to calm her down using her favorite drink. As the door opens, the team prepares to restrain her, but the plan fails. Bright Eyes escapes. Back in the boardroom, Will assures everyone that the virus has no harmful side effects for apes or humans. The only visible change is that the chimp's eyes turn green after injection. Chaos erupts as Bright Eyes storms into the room, sending everyone into a panic. Security opens fire, and Bright Eyes is killed. Enraged by the disaster, Stephen orders Franklin to terminate all the remaining apes in the lab. He refuses to risk another outbreak like this. The failed demonstration has ruined investor interest, and Stephen demands that Will fix the ALZ-112 formula so it no longer causes violent behavior. In the lab, Will approaches Franklin, who's busy in Bright Eyes' cage. To their shock, they discover a baby chimp inside. It turns out Bright Eyes didn't go berserk because of the drug, she was protecting her newborn. Franklin, unable to care for the baby, hands it to Will. Will refuses at first, but Franklin, unable to euthanize the infant himself, gives Will a syringe to do it. Reluctantly, Will takes the baby chimp home. Back at home, Will greets his father, Charles, who has just finished another Alzheimer's treatment session. It's revealed that Will's true motivation for creating the virus is to cure his father's disease. Will introduces Charles to the baby chimp, and to his surprise, Charles is instantly smitten. They name the chimp Caesar. The next morning, Charles frantically searches for his car keys, forgetting he had sold the car, a symptom of his illness. Will asks his father to feed Caesar. Charles is stunned when Caesar, only 2 days old, drinks from a bottle by himself without being shown how. That's when Will realizes, Caesar is no ordinary chimp. Now at 3 years old, Caesar's intelligence continues to grow. He quickly masters sign language, which Will started teaching him at the age of 2. Caesar's green eyes are a side effect of ALZ-112, inherited from his mother. It's what makes him so brilliant. But while Caesar thrives, Charles's condition worsens. His doctor gives up, saying there's nothing more he can do as Charles becomes increasingly unstable. Desperate, Will decides to steal ALZ-112 from the lab. He injects his father, hoping to restore what the disease has taken from him. And Charles saw everything. The next morning, Will is stunned to find his father playing the piano fluently. The treatment had worked, the drug had truly cured his father's Alzheimer's. Meanwhile, in the attic, Caesar spots a bicycle left behind by a neighbor through the window. Curious and eager, Caesar sneaks out of the house and heads next door to try and fix it. Will and Charles suddenly realize Caesar is missing. They rush outside to find him. Hearing Caesar's cries, Will follows the sound and arrives at the neighbor's house, only to see the neighbor striking Caesar. Enraged, Will scolds the man and quickly takes Caesar home. Caesar's leg is injured from the assault. Will brings him to a veterinary clinic at the zoo, where they meet a veterinarian named Caroline. She's amazed when she discovers Caesar can communicate using sign language. Caesar even cheekily suggests Will should take Caroline on a date. Time passes, and Will and Caroline grow closer. On a visit to Will's home, Caroline sees Caesar's room in the attic. She realizes that Caesar won't stay small forever, he'll grow into a large, powerful animal. She gently suggests that Caesar should learn to live in his natural environment, the forest. They take a trip to the Redwood Forest, a protected woodland across the Golden Gate Bridge. Upon arrival, Will removes Caesar's leash to let him move freely. But to Will's surprise, Caesar pauses and reaches out his hand, asking for permission. When Will nods, Caesar dashes into the woods. It's his first time seeing the forest, and he's in awe of the towering trees. He climbs the massive trunks and branches, making his way all the way to the top. Time passes. Caesar is now 8 years old. But he begins to feel like nothing more than a pet. That feeling hits him harder when he sees a dog walking by, wearing the same kind of leash as his own. Will assures him, "You're not a pet. You're like family. You're like a son to me." But Caesar doesn't believe him. Deep down, he longs to know the truth about his real mother. Will finally take Caesar to Genesis, the lab where Caesar was born. He explains that Caesar's mother died there, used as a test subject. Caroline, who has stayed quiet until now, is shocked by Will's confession. Caesar's extraordinary intelligence, she realizes, came at a cost. He was born from an experiment. Caroline reminds Will that Caesar isn't meant to be caged. He's grown, and he deserves freedom. One morning during breakfast, Charles can't hold a fork properly. Caesar steps in to help him. Seeing this, Will senses something's wrong. He conducts tests and makes a painful discovery. Charles's body is developing antibodies against the ALZ-112 virus. Treatment is no longer working, and the Alzheimer's has returned, more aggressively than before. One day, Charles wanders out of the house and notices the neighbor's car door is open. Confused, he gets inside and tries to drive, but crashes into the cars in front and behind. The neighbor storms out and begins yelling, pointing his finger in Charles's face. From the attic, Caesar watches it all unfold, and his anger boils over. He bursts out of the house and charges at the neighbor, who tries to retreat into his home. But Caesar is faster. He tackles the man and bites his index finger. Because of this attack, Caesar is declared dangerous and is ordered by the court to be placed in a primate facility. Will and Caroline, devastated, have no choice but to comply. They arrive at the facility, where they're met by the owner, John. He shows them the outdoor play area where the other apes are kept. Caesar seems curious and walks in to explore. But then, John slams the gate shut behind him. Will and Caroline try to explain. This is only temporary. Caesar must stay here for now. Will promises he'll find a way to bring him home. Caesar stands behind the bars, heartbroken. John tells Will it's time to leave. The longer they stay, the harder the goodbye becomes. As Will walks away, Caesar hears someone calling his name. Curious, he follows the voice, only to find himself tricked and trapped inside a cage. The voice belongs to Dodge, John's son, who is responsible for managing the apes at the facility. From his cage, Caesar looks around and sees countless other apes, all locked behind bars. The next day, Will begin searching for a new version of the ALZ-112 virus, which is no longer effective in treating his father's illness. Will refuses to lose either Charles or Caesar. He visits Stephen at the Genesis building and finally confesses he had injected his father with ALZ-112. The virus worked, his father recovered completely. But after some time, his body developed antibodies that rejected the treatment. Stephen, intrigued, listens closely as Will adds that not only did Charles recover, but his intelligence had significantly increased. This catches Stephen's attention. He agrees to let Will begin developing a new version of the virus. Back at the facility, Dodge and his assistant Rodney are feeding the apes. But Caesar refuses to eat. Instead, he hurls the food back at Dodge. Furious, Dodge blasts Caesar with a high-pressure hose. That night, Caesar draws the shape of his bedroom window on the wall of his cage. He misses home. Elsewhere, Will and Franklin select a test subject, a chimp named Koba, to receive the upgraded virus, ALZ-113. This new version is an improved form of 112. Stephen arrives, eager to witness the trial firsthand. Everyone in the lab suits up in protective gear. The procedure starts smoothly. Koba appears calm. Suddenly, a malfunction causes the tubing that delivers the virus to disconnect, and Franklin's mask comes loose. Will urgently tells him to put it back on. The next day at the primate facility, Dodge and Rodney open the upper doors of each cage, letting the apes gather in the central play area. Caesar slowly walks toward it. He notices the massive gorilla, Buck, hasn't left his cage. An aggressive ape named Rocket approaches Caesar. Caesar offers his hand in peace, but Rocket rips Caesar's shirt and attacks. Caesar flees up a tree, but Rocket chases him relentlessly. Caesar tries to fight back, but Rocket knocks him down. Just as Rocket prepares for another strike, Dodge fires a tranquilizer dart, knocking him out. Caesar is also hit and sedated. Meanwhile, the ALZ-113 virus proves successful. Koba's intelligence soars. He even learns to write Steven's last name. So far, the virus shows no negative side effects. Will instructs Franklin to keep monitoring him closely, but it's clear Franklin isn't feeling well. Back at the facility, an orangutan named Maurice begins communicating with Caesar using sign language. Maurice asks about Caesar's injuries. Caesar, surprised, asks how Maurice knows sign language. Maurice explains he used to perform in a circus, that's how he learned. Later, some workers arrive and sedate one of the apes to transport it to the Genesis lab. Maurice warns Caesar to be careful, all of them could end up as test subjects. A few days later, Will and Caroline visit Caesar. They're shocked to see his injured hand. Dodge claims it's common for new apes to get bullied, but Will doesn't buy it, especially after spotting Dodge holding an electric prod. Will insists on taking Caesar home immediately, but John refuses, citing legal restrictions. Caesar watches, devastated. Will can't take him away. That night, in silence, Caesar erases the window he had drawn on his cage wall. The next morning, as all the apes gather in the play area, Caesar climbs to the top of a tree. From there, he notices the playroom roof can open. At that moment, he also realizes something else. Rocket is terrified of Buck, the giant gorilla. That night, Dodge brings 3 of his friends into the ape enclosure. He starts playing with his electric prod, sparking it near the cages, terrifying the apes. One of his friends approaches Caesar. Without warning, Caesar lunges and chokes the man. Dodge jumps in to pull him away, and they all quickly retreat, shaken. After they leave, Caesar pulls out a small knife he swiped during the encounter. Using it, he unlocks his cage. Quietly, he sneaks into the play area and opens Buck's cage. Caesar encourages Buck to step out. At first, Buck hesitates, it's been a long time since he's left the cage. But eventually, he takes a few bold steps and begins running around freely. Buck looks at Caesar with gratitude. Caesar then unlocks Rocket's cage. As Rocket steps out, Caesar immediately strikes him in the head. Rocket doesn't retaliate, not with Buck standing nearby. Buck steps forward and commands Rocket to follow Caesar's lead. Meanwhile, Will considers giving ALZ-113 to Charles, hoping to restore him again. But Charles refuses. The next morning, Will finds his father has passed away in his sleep. After the funeral, Will returns to the Genesis lab. To his shock, he finds researchers testing on Koba without any prior review. Will demands to know why they didn't consult Franklin, but no one has seen Franklin in 2 days. Steven shows up and proudly claims the ALZ-113 is a success. Will's assistant explains that Koba's intelligence has skyrocketed. But Will warns that the drug still isn't ready. Steven, hungry for profit, insists on rushing it to market. He believes it could be the most profitable product Genesis has ever created. Will refuses, knowing the risks. When Steven threatens to fire him, Will doesn't back down, he resigns on the spot. Elsewhere, Franklin stumbles toward Will's house in a dazed state, but Will isn't home. The neighbor approaches him just as Franklin sneezes, blood splattering on the man's face. Franklin stumbles away into the night. Back at the primate facility, Will tries to buy Caesar's freedom by offering John a bribe. John agrees. When Will arrives at Caesar's cage and tells him he's taking him home, Caesar surprises him. He calmly closes the cage door himself. He doesn't want to go. That night, Caesar gives Rocket a biscuit he had stolen. He tells Rocket to distribute the biscuits to the other apes. Maurice watches this and asks why Caesar is doing it. Caesar replies, if they're united, they'll be strong. But the effort doesn't work, the apes still fight among themselves. Maurice sighs and says it's useless, the apes are too dumb. Then Caesar notices something, Rodney entering a door using a keypad. Later that night, Caesar sneaks into the control room, enters the same code, and escapes. He runs all the way to Will's house and sneaks inside to steal the ALZ-113 stored in the fridge. Returning to the facility, Caesar pierces the canisters and releases the green gas into the enclosures. By morning, Caesar watches as the eyes of the other apes begin to turn green, just like his. Elsewhere, Franklin is found dead in his apartment by the landlord. Tests reveal he's infected. That means ALZ-113 is deadly to humans. At the facility, Dodge discovers Caesar wandering freely in the play area. He should be in his cage. Dodge calls Rodney to back him up. Holding the electric prod, he orders Caesar to get back inside. Rodney stands by with a tranquilizer. Dodge shocks Caesar repeatedly, but Caesar doesn't back down. Then, something unbelievable happens. Caesar shouts, "No!" Both Dodge and Rodney freeze in shock. Caesar just spoke. Caesar then strikes Dodge, knocking him unconscious. He drags him into a cage and locks him inside. One by one, Caesar begins freeing the other apes. The uprising has begun. Rodney is also overpowered and shoved into a cage. When Dodge regains consciousness, he grabs the electric prod. But before he can strike, Caesar sprays him with a hose. The water hits the live electricity, and Dodge is killed by the surge. Caesar notices the Genesis label on one of the cages. He opens it and frees Buck. Then he frees all the others. And with fire in his eyes, Caesar leads the apes to escape. Back at home, Will notices Caesar's room is open. Fearing something might have happened, he quickly calls the primate facility, but no one answers. Alarmed, Will and Caroline rush over. There, they find Dodge, dead. Will spots a broken vial of the ALZ-113 serum on the floor. He demands answers from Rodney. Trembling, Rodney reveals the shocking truth: Caesar can talk. Elsewhere, Caesar takes command, splitting the apes into two groups, one headed to Genesis, the other to the zoo. Soon, Caesar's group arrives at the Genesis building. The apes storm in, destroy everything in their path, and free Koba and the rest of the captive apes. Steven is there, and he panics as the building descends into chaos. Fearing for his life, he flees in a police helicopter. Meanwhile, Buck leads the second group to the city zoo. They free the imprisoned apes and arm themselves with metal pipes. The city descends into total chaos. A lone officer manages to capture one of the apes, but others hurl metal rods from above, forcing him to retreat. The apes rescue their captured comrade. Caesar and the others begin moving toward the redwood forest. But to get there, they have to cross the Golden Gate Bridge. Will and Caroline race toward the bridge, knowing Caesar will be walking into a trap. Police forces have already set up roadblocks, armed and ready. A thick fog rolls over the bridge, limiting visibility. Caesar halts the group mid-bridge. He senses danger ahead. Thinking fast, he orders part of the group to move above the bridge and the rest to go underneath it. Will, frantic, spots mounted police units arriving and knows this will end in bloodshed. Caroline creates a diversion so Will can sneak past and reach the bridge. As the horseback police charge into the apes, a violent clash erupts. Officers strike down apes without mercy. Buck slams one of the mounted officers, about to deliver a fatal blow, but Caesar stops him. No killing. Caesar then directs a group of apes to push a city bus forward and use it as a shield. Bullets rain down on the bus, until suddenly, a voice yells out, "Hold your fire." It's Caesar, riding a horse. From the high ground and below the bridge, Caesar signals the apes to launch their attack. Surrounded, the police finally retreat. The apes roar in triumph. They've won. Just then, a helicopter descends from the sky, opening fire. Steven points Caesar out to the gunner. Caesar, unfazed, grabs a chain and throws it, striking both Steven and the gunman inside the chopper. A nearby officer tries to shoot Caesar, but Buck leaps in, pushing Caesar out of the line of fire. Buck launches himself into the helicopter, causing it to spin out of control and crash in a fiery explosion. Caesar rushes in, pulling Buck from the wreckage, but it's too late. Buck is gone. In the wreckage, Steven calls out for help, but Caesar turns and walks away. Then Koba appears, and shoves the burning remains of the helicopter into the river, ending Steven's story for good. From behind, Will arrives in a police car, racing after Caesar. By now, the apes have reached the edge of the redwood forest. Will calls out for Caesar. But it's Koba who responds, lunging toward Will. Before he can strike, Caesar steps in and stops him. Will apologizes. He pleads with Caesar to come home, promising he'll protect him. Caesar leans in, whispers softly. Caesar is home. Caesar gently pushes Will away. This forest is his home now, with his kind. Back at the airport, Will's neighbor, now a commercial pilot, prepares to board a flight to China. Suddenly, he wipes his nose, and sees blood. One day, a company called Genesis based in San Francisco created a virus known as ALZ-113, intended to be a cure for Alzheimer's disease. This virus was tested on apes, and those injected began to show extraordinary levels of intelligence. Eventually, the apes escaped, leading to a dramatic incident on the Golden Gate Bridge. They crossed the bridge and vanished into the forest. However, the virus had a terrifying side effect. It triggered a deadly illness in humans called the simian flu. This disease spread rapidly and lethally. In no time, the virus engulfed the entire globe, wiping out almost everyone it touched. Human civilization collapsed completely. Those who were immune didn't necessarily survive either. Many were killed amidst the chaos and violence. Humanity slowly began to vanish from the earth. 10 years later, deep in the forest, an ape named Caesar led a group of apes on a hunt for deer. He ordered his right-hand ape, Koba, and the others to advance. Without hesitation, the apes obeyed, leaping from tree to tree in pursuit of their prey. Caesar managed to take down a deer. He brought his son, Blue Eyes, along to teach him the ways of the hunt. Caesar warned him to be careful, but Blue Eyes ignored the advice. As Blue Eyes approached the fallen deer, a bear suddenly attacked. Caesar rushed in to protect his son, and just as the bear was about to strike again, Koba appeared from behind and drove a spear into the beast, killing it. The apes returned to their settlement, carrying their catch. Caesar now led a colony of intelligent apes who had built a village atop a cliff in the middle of the forest. Upon returning, Caesar was summoned to see his mate, Cornelia. She had just given birth to a baby boy. Blue Eyes was thrilled to meet his new sibling. Outside, Maurice congratulated Caesar on the birth of his second child. It had been 10 years since they first settled in that place. Caesar expressed his curiosity about what had become of the humans, especially Will, the man who once raised him. Still, Caesar disapproved of the violent nature of humans, how easily they could kill each other. Though apes also fought, Caesar had forbidden them from killing one another. Maurice mentioned that it had been 2 years since he'd seen any sign of humans. He believed it was possible that humanity had gone extinct. One day, Blue Eyes and his friend Ash were on their way home after fishing when they accidentally encountered a human named Carver. Startled and terrified, Carver pulled out a gun and accidentally shot Ash. Caesar, hearing the gunshot from afar, rushed to the scene. Meanwhile, Carver screamed for help. His companions, Malcolm, Ellie, and others, ran to him. Suddenly, Caesar and a group of apes arrived and surrounded them. Panic set in. The humans raised their weapons in fear. Rocket, the father of Ash who had been shot, stepped forward with a spear, making things even tenser. Caesar ordered the apes to stand down. Rocket resisted. His son had been hurt, but Caesar insisted he remain calm. Malcolm began to notice something strange about these apes. He tried to explain that they meant no harm and urged his group to lower their weapons. Then, to everyone's shock, Caesar spoke, commanding the humans to leave. The humans were stunned. The apes could talk. As they began to retreat, Malcolm's son, Alex, accidentally dropped his bag and didn't have time to pick it up. Caesar instructed Koba to follow the humans. After returning from the forest, Malcolm reported to Dreyfus at the quarantine outpost. Dreyfus was the leader of the surviving human community, people who had immunity to the simian flu. It turned out that Malcolm and his team had ventured into the forest to reactivate a hydroelectric dam to restore power to the city. Carver then told them about their encounter with the talking apes. Of course, Dreyfus didn't believe it at first, but Malcolm confirmed everything. everyone there had witnessed it. Dreyfus ordered them to keep it secret. He didn't want to cause widespread panic. Deep in the forest, after secretly spying on the humans, Koba urged Caesar to lead a preemptive strike, attack the humans before they attack them. But Maurice opposed the idea. They didn't know the humans' true strength. They didn't even know why the humans had entered the forest in the first place. Koba then tried to provoke Rocket, reminding him that the humans had shot his son. But Rocket remained calm, saying he would follow Caesar's orders. Besides, his son had only suffered a minor wound to the arm. A heated argument broke out among the apes. Caesar stepped in and reminded them, if they went to war with the humans, the cost would be devastating. They could lose their home, their families, and the future they had built. Koba eventually backed down, saying he would obey Caesar. But he insisted that the apes needed to show the humans their strength. Caesar agreed with that part. The next day, Caesar led an army of apes toward the human settlement. Panic swept through the city as the sight of the advancing apes sent people into a frenzy. The gates were opened, and Malcolm stepped forward to meet Caesar. Caesar declared that the apes did not want war, but they would fight if they had to. The apes then returned Alex's bag. Caesar warned the humans never to enter the forest again. Then, with commanding presence, he and his army turned and left. After the confrontation, the human settlement was in chaos. Dreyfus tried to calm everyone down. If the apes returned to attack, he said, they still had access to a large cache of old military weapons. But for now, Dreyfus would focus on restarting the hydroelectric dam. Fuel was running out, and power was their only hope. With electricity, they could reconnect with any remaining survivors in the outside world. Still, Dreyfus revealed his plan. He would lead an armed force to seize the dam from the apes if necessary. After the speech, Malcolm confronted Dreyfus. He was completely against launching an attack. Instead, Malcolm asked for 3 days to go into the forest and attempt a peaceful negotiation with the apes. If that failed, then, and only then, should they resort to violence. Dreyfus agreed. But while Malcolm was gone, Dreyfus would prepare the weapons in the armory. If Malcolm didn't return within 3 days, he would lead a full assault to wipe the apes out. Malcolm told his partner, Ellie, that they were heading back into the forest. For this mission, he had no choice but to bring Carver again. He was a water systems engineer, and the only one who understood the dam. Ellie, still anxious, asked what they'd do if the apes confronted them again. Malcolm answered that he'd try to negotiate. He had to. He couldn't let a war begin. Ellie insisted on joining. As a doctor, he could help if anyone got hurt. Surprisingly, Alex also wanted to come. He wanted to help his father. Soon, Malcolm and his team entered the forest. Malcolm decided to approach the ape village alone. He told the others that if he didn't return in 2 hours, they were to go back to the city immediately. Malcolm then ventured deep into the woods, eventually arriving at the ape settlement. Several apes appeared and seized him. Malcolm raised both hands to show he meant no harm. Caesar arrived, furious and ready to kill Malcolm. But Malcolm pleaded for a chance to explain. He begged Caesar to come with him, to the dam. If Caesar saw it for himself, he would understand. Koba, already holding his spear, looked ready to strike. But to everyone's surprise, Caesar agreed to go. They made their way to the dam. Along the way, Malcolm explained that the people in the city were running out of energy. They had no power left to keep the lights on. Their only hope was the hydroelectric dam. Malcolm pleaded with Caesar to allow his team to repair it. He swore that they were not a threat. Seeing Malcolm's desperation, Caesar agreed. Malcolm returned to his team waiting in the car, followed closely by several apes. He told them that the apes had agreed to let them fix the dam, on one condition: they had to surrender all their weapons. With no other option, the group handed over their guns. Rocket then smashed them to pieces. Witnessing this, Koba clearly disagreed with Caesar's decision. He argued that if the humans regained electricity, they would become even more dangerous. But Caesar replied that he saw only desperation in the humans. If the apes chased Malcolm away, Caesar was certain that the humans would come back with an army and start a war. Still, Koba wasn't satisfied. His hatred for humans ran deep. He revealed the scars on his body, the result of being tortured as a lab experiment by humans. But when Koba's tone turned defiant, Caesar became furious. Koba backed down and apologized. Elsewhere, Carver remained convinced that the apes would eventually kill them all. He harbored deep hatred toward them, blaming them for the simian flu that had wiped out half the human population and taken countless loved ones. But Ellie disagreed. She argued that the apes weren't to blame. The virus was created by human scientists in a lab. Carver didn't care, his hatred remained unchanged. The next day, Caesar and the other apes escorted Malcolm and his team to the dam. But Koba was nowhere to be seen. Secretly, he and two fellow apes had gone to the city to investigate. From a distance, Koba saw Dreyfus and his men inspecting weapons. He snuck into the armory and found a cache of military-grade firearms being prepared. A human spotted Koba. As the man aimed his gun, Koba quickly acted like a mindless ape. The man hesitated, then lowered his weapon and shooed Koba away. Koba and his companions returned to the forest. Back at the dam, Malcolm and Carver planned to blow up a blocked waterway. The explosion worked, but it also caused debris to collapse and block the path. Carver was trapped beneath the rubble. Caesar and the other apes rushed in to help rescue him. Once Carver was freed, Malcolm sincerely thanked Caesar for saving his friend. Just then, Caesar's youngest child toddled over to Ellie, who was tending to Carver's injuries. The baby ape curiously approached Carver's toolbox. Carver panicked and shoved the ape away. Blue Eyes stepped in immediately to protect his little brother. Carver then reached into the toolbox and pulled out a hidden gun. Caesar acted swiftly, grabbing the weapon from Carver. Outraged, Malcolm begged Caesar not to kill him. Caesar was furious, there was still a gun among them. Without hesitation, he hurled it into the river. Malcolm tried to explain that he had no idea Carver still had a weapon. Caesar didn't care. He ordered Malcolm and his team to leave the forest. When Caesar returned to the ape village, he found Cornelia lying weak and unresponsive. Her condition had worsened since giving birth. Meanwhile, Malcolm made a bold decision. He would go back and speak to Caesar one last time. He needed Caesar to give him another chance. Ellie joined him. Arriving at the ape settlement, Malcolm pleaded with Caesar once again. He promised to banish Carver. Then Ellie saw Cornelia's condition and offered to help. She was a doctor, and she could treat her. But Caesar remained silent. Malcolm tried to reason with him, insisting that not all humans were like Carver. Eventually, Caesar relented and allowed Ellie to treat Cornelia. He then declared that he would give Malcolm and his team just one more day. Malcolm pleaded for more time, knowing a single day wouldn't be enough. But Caesar firmly refused. To help speed up the work, Caesar decided to send apes to assist the humans. Hearing this, Blue Eyes disagreed with his father's decision to help the humans. And once they returned from the ape village, Malcolm immediately locked Carver inside the car. The next day, Koba arrived at the dam to confront Caesar. He pushed Alex aside when the boy got in his way. Malcolm quickly stepped forward to protect his son. Koba shouted out Caesar's name. Caesar appeared, and Koba demanded to know why he was helping the humans who had attacked his own child. To Koba, Caesar was putting all the apes in danger. He accused Caesar of loving the humans more than his own kind, more than his own son. Enraged, Caesar attacked Koba. Being stronger, Caesar easily overpowered him. But instead of finishing him off, Caesar let him go. He looked Koba in the eye and said, "Apes do not kill apes." Koba, defeated, muttered an apology. Watching it all, Blue Eyes grew more and more disillusioned with his father, who seemed to be siding with the humans. Later, in secret, Koba ordered his companion not to tell Caesar about the human armory. He then approached Blue Eyes, telling him that Caesar no longer trusted him. Koba urged Blue Eyes to protect Caesar, because as long as humans were nearby, they were still in danger. The following day, Koba returned secretly to the weapons depot. The two humans guarding it thought he was just a harmless ape. But they were wrong. Koba seized a gun and killed them both. He returned to the forest, now armed and dangerous. That night, Malcolm and his team finally succeeded in reactivating the power plant. A gas station in the forest lit up as electricity flowed once again. Malcolm thanked Caesar for his help. Elsewhere, Carver, still locked inside the car, was ambushed and killed by Koba. Malcolm and his team were then invited back to the ape village. From a distance, they saw the city glowing with light. It meant their mission had succeeded. Caesar visited Cornelia, now fully recovered. But in the shadows, Koba was already moving. He ordered his followers to burn down the ape homes. Then he spotted Caesar above. Without hesitation, Koba raised his gun and shot Caesar. Caesar fell. Blue Eyes, in shock, saw the firearm lying on the ground. The other apes, enraged, saw their leader shot and chaos erupted. Behind them, flames roared higher. Blue Eyes picked up the gun that had been used to shoot his father. The apes, confused and furious, believed it was the humans who had done this. Maurice, sensing something was wrong, told Malcolm and his team to run. Koba appeared before the others and declared that the humans had killed Caesar and burned down their home. He ordered a group of apes to chase after Malcolm and his people. Then, he rallied the entire ape army to march on the human settlement. "We will avenge Caesar," he proclaimed. The females and children were told to hide deep in the forest. Outside, Malcolm, Ellie, and Alex barely escaped with their lives. Meanwhile, Koba led the apes in raiding the human armory. Dreyfus, learning of the breach, immediately sounded the alarm and ordered his men to prepare for battle. He knew the apes were coming to attack. Soon, the apes appeared on the road to the human compound. War broke out. Casualties fell on both sides. Blue Eyes watched in horror as apes died one after another. Dreyfus fired a bazooka, blowing up fuel drums. A tank rolled in, blasting the apes. Koba charged forward and took control of the tank, turning its firepower against the humans. Eventually, the apes broke through the settlement gates. The war had truly begun. In the forest, Ellie stumbled upon Caesar lying motionless. At first, they thought he was dead, but then, he moved. Caesar was still alive. They quickly brought him into the car. Malcolm assumed it was Carver who shot him, but Caesar revealed the truth: it was an ape, a traitor. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Malcolm rushed to get Caesar to safety. Back in the city, Koba commanded the apes to capture all the remaining humans. He then ordered Ice to kill a man standing before them. But Ice refused. He believed Caesar would never have wanted this. Enraged, Koba dragged Ice to the edge and threw him to his death. "Caesar is dead." Koba roared. "I am the leader now. And you will follow me." On the outskirts of the city, Caesar asked Malcolm to stop at a house. They took shelter inside. There, Alex found a photo of a man with a chimpanzee. It was from Caesar's past. This was Caesar's old home, the place where he had been raised by Will. Ellie told Malcolm she needed surgical supplies to save Caesar. Malcolm made the bold decision to go into the city alone to get them. They had to save Caesar at all costs. He was the only one who could end the war. Meanwhile, in the city, Koba imprisoned the captured humans in cages. He ordered his apes to hunt down anyone still hiding. Blue Eyes saw Maurice, Rocket, and other loyal followers of Caesar locked up inside a bus. Elsewhere, Malcolm managed to sneak into a building and gathered the medical tools Ellie needed. But as he tried to escape, he had to dodge roaming apes at every turn. Eventually, Malcolm came face to face with Blue Eyes. At first, Blue Eyes raised his weapon, but he didn't shoot. Realizing who the boy was, Malcolm told him the truth: Caesar was still alive. Malcolm returned to the hideout with Blue Eyes. When Blue Eyes saw his father gravely injured, he was furious, convinced humans were to blame. But Caesar looked at him and spoke the truth: it wasn't a human who shot him, it was Koba. Once everything was ready, Ellie began the operation to save Caesar. After the surgery, Blue Eyes apologized to Caesar for turning against him. But Caesar didn't blame his son. Instead, he blamed himself. He had trusted Koba too much. He had believed that apes were better than humans, but he was wrong. There was no difference. Apes could be just as cruel. Caesar then asked where Koba was. Blue Eyes explained that Koba was at the tower, surrounded by the other apes. If they knew Caesar was alive, they would surely follow him. But Caesar disagreed. He believed the apes would only follow whoever appeared strongest. And in his current state, he was too weak to lead. Blue Eyes then came up with a plan. He asked for permission to help his father. Quietly and swiftly, Blue Eyes freed Maurice and the other apes loyal to Caesar. He brought them to Caesar's hideout. He also shared news that the female apes and young ones were already on their way to the city. They had to move quickly to stop Koba. Hearing this, Caesar made up his mind. He would go to the city and confront Koba once and for all. Malcolm had an idea. He would lead them in through the underground subway tunnels. As Malcolm and the apes made their way through the underground subway tunnels, gunfire suddenly erupted. Malcolm quickly ordered Caesar and the others to climb up to safety. Once they were out, he crept toward the source of the gunfire, only to find Dreyfus and 2 of his men waiting below. Dreyfus revealed that he had planted explosives beneath the tower. His plan was to bring it down and kill every ape inside. But before he could act, Malcolm pulled a gun on him. He demanded Dreyfus hold off on the detonation, at least for now. Above, Caesar and his loyal apes had reached the top of the tower. Seeing Caesar alive, Koba stepped forward and declared himself the rightful leader. He had led the apes to victory in war, he claimed. He called Caesar weak. But Caesar replied with fire in his voice, saying Koba was the weaker one, because he needed a gun to win. Enraged, Koba threw his weapon aside and challenged Caesar to a bare-handed fight. They clashed violently, their bodies crashing and tumbling across the structure. Blue Eyes tried to intervene, but Caesar stopped him. This was between them. Koba grabbed a metal rod and swung at Caesar. The battle grew brutal. As fists and metal collided, Caesar blocked with a steel plate, holding on with all his strength. He asked Koba why betray him, after he had treated him like a brother. Koba coldly responded that he fought for the apes. But Caesar saw the truth, Koba fought only for himself. With a blow to Koba's gut, Caesar knocked him back. The 2 tumbled again, nearly falling, barely catching themselves on a ledge. Meanwhile, below, Dreyfus revealed something more. He had made contact with a surviving military base. Reinforcements were on their way to wipe out the apes. With grim resolve, Dreyfus activated the detonator. A powerful explosion tore through the base of the tower. Malcolm barely escaped as the blast sent shockwaves upward. The tower shook. Apes lost their footing, rubble crashed down. Caesar rushed to help those trapped beneath the debris. But Koba didn't care. He picked up a gun and began firing at Caesar. Blue Eyes hurled a piece of metal to distract him. As Koba turned to aim at Blue Eyes, Caesar lunged. The 2 apes rolled again in a final struggle. Caesar survived the fall, but Koba was left hanging from a ledge. Desperate, Koba cried out, "Ape not kill ape." Caesar looked around at the wounded, his people, harmed by Koba's madness. He stared down at Koba and said coldly, "You are not ape." Then he let go. Koba fell into the darkness. The apes gathered. Once more, they stood behind Caesar. Moments later, Malcolm appeared. He urged Caesar to flee, soldiers were on their way, and if they didn't escape, war would erupt again. But Caesar shook his head. It was too late. The war had already begun, and the apes were the ones who started it. Humanity would not forgive. Caesar told Malcolm to leave, before it was too late. There was no turning back. Caesar and the apes would face this war to the end. Soon, the female apes and the young arrived. Caesar embraced his wife and son. Then, he turned to his people and gave the order. Prepare for war. And that's the end of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. 15 years ago, an experiment that created a species of intelligent apes unleashed a terrifying side effect, a virus known as the simian flu. This virus wiped out most of the human population. The apes, now highly intelligent, formed a colony led by a wise and powerful ape named Caesar. But a rebellious ape named Koba betrayed him, sparking a devastating war between apes and humans. In desperation, the humans sought help from the northern military base, where the last remaining American forces had gathered. Colonel McCullough and his elite Alpha Omega unit were dispatched with one mission: eradicate the apes. For 2 long years, they hunted Caesar's hidden sanctuary deep in the forest. Eventually, they discovered a trench they believed to be Caesar's stronghold. But they didn't come alone. They were aided by traitorous apes, former followers of Koba, whom the soldiers cruelly called donkeys. From behind the bushes, the captain observed the scene. Thanks to intel from one of the donkey apes perched in a tree, they learned that many apes were hiding behind the trench. Following the colonel's orders, the captain called in a sniper named Preacher to take out any armed apes. In an instant, battle erupted, apes clashing fiercely with American soldiers. The humans managed to breach the trench and kill several apes, unaware that a larger ape force was closing in from the forest. Suddenly, the tide turned. The ape reinforcements stormed in, overwhelming the human soldiers. Within moments, nearly all of the Alpha Omega unit lay dead. Preacher, among the few survivors, found his captain already slain. As he tried to contact headquarters, he was captured by an ape. Then, Caesar himself arrived at the battlefield. He was heartbroken by the sight, so many of his kin dead and wounded. Accompanied by his loyal guards, Luca and Winter, Caesar approached the captured survivors, 4 American soldiers and 1 red donkey ape. When Preacher saw Caesar, he confessed that the humans had been hunting him for a long time, even believing him to be dead. Caesar responded firmly, it wasn't he who started the war, but Koba. And Koba was dead, killed by Caesar's own hand. Now, Caesar fights only to protect his kind. He knows that after Koba's fall, his followers feared revenge and thus betrayed the apes, aligning with the humans. The red donkey defiantly claimed he wasn't afraid of Caesar. It was Caesar who should fear the humans. He warned that Colonel McCullough was a ruthless and formidable leader. Another ape struck the red donkey, but Caesar stopped him. Luca then ordered Winter to tie the red donkey behind them. Caesar made a choice to release the 4 captured soldiers. He wanted to send a message of peace to Colonel McCullough. If the colonel allowed the apes to live peacefully in the forest, then the war could end. The soldiers were freed. Maurice, Caesar's trusted friend, questioned whether this act of mercy would truly bring peace. Caesar answered with hope. He wanted the colonel to understand that the apes here were not a threat. Suddenly, Winter appeared, wounded, his head bleeding. He reported that the red donkey had escaped. Soon after, the bodies of the fallen apes were set adrift down a river. Then, the sound of a trumpet echoed. The apes braced themselves, thinking the enemy had returned, but to their surprise, it was not the enemy. 2 apes emerged, Rocket and Caesar's son, Blue Eyes. After a long journey to find a new home, they had finally come back. The apes returned to their hidden sanctuary, tucked behind a great waterfall. There, Blue Eyes and Rocket shared their discovery. They had found a lush, fertile valley beyond the desert. It was far, very far, and Blue Eyes was certain the humans would never be able to find them there. Winter, gripped by fear, suggested they leave immediately, tonight. But some apes opposed the idea, including Blue Eyes himself. Tension rose, voices clashed. Caesar stepped in, urging them all to stay calm. Winter argued that Blue Eyes didn't understand how much more dangerous things had become since he'd been gone. Blue Eyes responded, acknowledging Winter's fear, but insisted that they needed a solid plan. Caesar agreed, they had to find a safe way out. There were too many apes to risk rushing blindly. He believed that if they stayed united, they would remain strong. That night, as the others slept, Caesar noticed a strange green light and discovered a rope hanging near the waterfall. Something was wrong. Alarmed, Caesar told Blue Eyes to stay and protect their mother and little brother, Cornelius. Then, he set out to investigate. Hidden in the shadows, soldiers from the Alpha Omega unit had infiltrated the base. Caesar quietly ordered Luca to alert Rocket and ready the others. Meanwhile, Blue Eyes managed to take down a soldier who got too close, unaware that another enemy was creeping up from behind. Elsewhere in the tunnels, Rocket eliminated another soldier. Then Caesar caught a chilling sound through one of the soldiers' radios, confirmation that the colonel had succeeded in killing the ape leader. Panic surged through Caesar. He rushed to his home. There he saw Colonel McCullough, preparing to leave, and the lifeless bodies of Blue Eyes and his wife lying on the floor. Overcome with rage, Caesar charged, but the colonel opened fire, retreating to the rope. Caesar gave chase, climbing up, but the colonel cut the rope, sending Caesar plunging into the river. Though battered, Caesar survived. The colonel had escaped. When Caesar returned to the sanctuary, Luca delivered more grim news. Winter was gone. They feared Winter, overcome by fear, had betrayed them and revealed their location to the enemy. As Caesar mourned his wife and son, he heard a sound, small and faint. It was Cornelius, his youngest child, alive, having hidden himself. By morning, the apes prepared for their journey across the desert. But Caesar chose not to go. He entrusted Cornelius to a kind-hearted ape named Lake, asking her to protect him until he returned. Maurice, puzzled, asked why Caesar wouldn't come. Caesar revealed his true intention. He would find the colonel and avenge the deaths of his family. He believed the rest of the apes would be safe without him, because the soldiers were after Caesar, not the others. With him gone, they could escape the forest unharmed. As Caesar set off alone, Luca, Rocket, and Maurice caught up with him. Luca said he knew where the humans' camp was and could guide him there. Caesar warned them, it was dangerous, they might not survive. But Maurice replied, that's exactly why they were coming. They would help Caesar, so that he could survive, and return. The four apes began their perilous journey to the enemy base. Eventually, they reached a coastal settlement. But the place was eerily silent. As they approached, Maurice spotted an armed man. Just as the man raised his weapon, Caesar struck first, killing him. He was, indeed, an American soldier. But the real question remained, why was he all alone out here? Suddenly, they heard a noise from inside the house. Caesar and the others cautiously entered. There, hiding under a bed, they found a young girl. Her name was Nova. Caesar, moved by the sight of her, told the others to search the house for supplies. Maurice gently approached Nova and offered her a small doll. It became clear that Nova was sick, and strangely, she couldn't speak. After gathering some essentials, Caesar urged them to leave. But Maurice, watching the lonely girl, said she wouldn't survive alone in the wilderness. Caesar refused, he didn't want to bring her. But Maurice insisted. In the end, Nova joined them on their journey. Not long after, Caesar and his companion stumbled upon another military camp, this one far busier, teeming with soldiers. From a distance, Caesar didn't see the colonel, but he did see Winter. That night, under cover of darkness, Caesar crept into the camp to confront Winter. Now reduced to a donkey, a slave to the humans, Winter was surrounded. Rocket and Luca blocked his escape. Desperate, Winter revealed that the colonel had left that morning with a large force. He also warned that more troops from the north were on the way. The colonel planned to meet them at the border, and the rest of his camp would follow by dawn. Winter believed that once those northern forces arrived, they'd join the colonel to exterminate the apes once and for all. He told them that when he captured the red donkey in the forest, the red donkey had promised the colonel would spare him, if Winter revealed Caesar's location. Caesar, burning with fury, declared that because of Winter's betrayal, his wife and son were dead. Then they noticed the shadow of a soldier passing outside the tent. Winter tried to call for help, but Caesar, in a burst of rage, grabbed him by the throat. The soldier moved on, but when Caesar released his grip, Winter was already dead. He hadn't meant to kill him, but it was too late. That night, Caesar had a haunting dream. He saw Koba. And Koba said the words that echoed like a curse, apes do not kill apes. By morning, Maurice informed Caesar that the soldiers had moved out. Without delay, Caesar and his friends followed. They caught up from a distance and watched as the Alpha Omega convoy came to a halt. Suddenly, they heard gunshots, multiple shots fired in the stillness. Once the convoy moved on, Caesar and the others approached the site. There, they found several dead American soldiers. But something was wrong. One of them was still alive, though he couldn't speak, just like Nova. Blood trickled from his nose. Something was happening, something strange. To track the convoy, Caesar, Maurice, Rocket, and Luca climbed a pole to get a better view. But they had lost the trail. Just then, they spotted someone below, wearing a coat, trying to steal Caesar's weapons and horse. Luca saw him and shouted. The figure bolted, escaping on horseback. The group gave chase, following him to an old building. They searched and found the intruder hiding in a hole in the floor. Suddenly, he tossed out the stolen weapon. But he wasn't human, he was an ape. And he could speak. He introduced himself as Bad Ape. Rocket and Luca tried to communicate with him using sign language, but he didn't understand. Only when Caesar spoke did Bad Ape respond. Seeing Nova shivering, Bad Ape took off his coat and gave it to her without hesitation. He explained that he had been living alone in that house for a long time. He was once part of a zoo, the Sierra Zoo. But the other apes from the zoo had all been killed by humans. Bad Ape was the only one who managed to escape. Bad Ape then took out the food he had and shared it with Caesar and his companions. He explained that he had scavenged it from a human quarantine facility near the border, a place where infected humans were imprisoned. Bad Ape had witnessed the horrors there. He saw sick humans try to escape, only to be gunned down by soldiers. Not a single one survived. Rocket realized that the place Bad Ape described was likely the same border military camp the colonel was heading to. Caesar asked Bad Ape to guide them there. But Bad Ape refused, He didn't want to go back to that terrifying place. That night, Caesar couldn't sleep. Bad Ape asked why. Caesar opened up, sharing the pain of losing his wife and son. In return, Bad Ape revealed that he, too, once had a child, but he didn't know where they were now. After hearing Caesar's story, Bad Ape changed his mind. He agreed to take them to the military camp, just in case his child might still be there too. By morning, Luca was playing gently with Nova. The apes had grown fond of her, treating her like one of their own. Then, they set off toward the camp. Eventually, they arrived at the edge of the military base. Caesar crept ahead to scout the area. But before he could react, 2 soldiers ambushed them. Fortunately, Rocket rushed in just in time and helped subdue the attackers. But then, they saw Luca. He had been stabbed. Caesar and Rocket hurried to lift him up. Wounded and fading fast, Luca whispered that it had been an honor to protect Caesar all this time. Nova, heartbroken, offered him the flower he had picked for her earlier. With a final breath, Luca passed away. Maurice urged Caesar to turn back, to rejoin the rest of the apes. But Caesar was resolute, he would see this mission through. Maurice warned him, he was starting to sound like Koba, driven by vengeance. Caesar paused, realizing the truth. This was his personal war. He had no right to drag his friends into it. He told them to return to the others. Caesar continued alone. Approaching the camp in silence, Caesar witnessed the unthinkable: apes shackled, tortured, executed. And they weren't strangers. They were his people. From a distance, Caesar saw them, every last member of his tribe imprisoned behind fences. One crucified ape still clung to life. Caesar freed him, and the ape told him what happened. They had been captured by the Alpha Omega forces, forced into hard labor under the colonel's rule. But before Caesar could do more, he was attacked from behind. The red donkey had returned. He struck Caesar down, knocking him unconscious. When Caesar awoke, the colonel stood before him. Caesar lunged, but heavy chains held him back. He snarled that he had come for one reason: to kill the colonel. Only now did the colonel realize, the apes he had killed before were Caesar's wife and child. Enraged, Caesar swore to end him before the northern reinforcements could arrive. The colonel laughed. He dragged Caesar outside. There, Caesar saw 2 cages, one packed with adult apes, the other with young ones. And among the children, was Cornelius. Caesar's heart sank. The guards threw him into the adult cage. The other apes inside looked broken, trembling in fear. Then Lake approached. Quietly, she told Caesar that the apes had suffered greatly, and Caesar, stricken with guilt, knew he had failed to protect them. The next morning, the soldiers opened the cage holding the adult apes. They were forced out and driven to labor, building a massive wall. Caesar joined them, working alongside the others. Lake quietly told him that none of the apes had been given food or water since arriving at the camp. Suddenly, one ape made a mistake. Without hesitation, the red donkey lashed him with a whip. Caesar, unable to bear the cruelty, shouted for him to stop. The other apes paused, and then, all of them stopped working entirely. Furious, the colonel ordered the red donkey to whip Caesar instead. Then he demanded that Caesar instruct the apes to return to work. Caesar replied, saying they needed food and water. The colonel didn't care. He raised his gun and shot one of the apes dead. Then, he aimed the barrel directly at Caesar's head. Faced with the threat to their leader, the apes gave in. Slowly, they returned to their labor. As punishment, Caesar was chained up in the middle of the yard for all to see. From a distance, Maurice, Rocket, Bad Ape, and Nova watched it all unfold. They knew they needed a plan to rescue the apes. That night, the red donkey approached Caesar. Caesar warned him, one day, the colonel would turn on him too, just like he had with every other ape. Then, soldiers dragged Caesar away to face the colonel. The colonel threatened to kill more apes if Caesar interfered with the work again. He insisted the wall must be completed. Caesar once again pleaded, his people needed food and water. The colonel finally agreed, but only once the wall was finished. At that moment, Caesar understood the truth. The northern troops weren't coming to join the colonel. They were coming to destroy him. The wall wasn't meant to trap apes. It was a fortress, a desperate defense against the northern military. Caesar recalled the dead humans he'd found earlier, killed by the colonel's own men. The colonel was a rogue, a madman, so far gone he was hated by his own kind. Then the colonel told him a story. Months ago, he had sent a recon team to locate Caesar's base. One of the soldiers in that team was his only son. But one day, his son fell ill. Something strange, he couldn't speak. He became feral, like an animal. Soon, the doctor treating him suffered the same fate. Speechless. Mindless. The medics concluded the simian flu had mutated. It now infected even those previously immune. This new strain didn't kill, but it stripped away everything human: speech, thought, identity. It turned men into beasts. To save humanity, the colonel did the unthinkable. He executed his only son. He then ordered all infected humans to be killed and their belongings burned. He showed no mercy. Anyone who refused to follow orders met the same fate. Some of his men, horrified, fled to the northern base and reported him. The northern military sent envoys, hoping to contain the outbreak medically. But the colonel, distrusting them, killed the messengers, and let one survivor escape to deliver a message. He would never stop. Not while he and his army still stood. Then, coldly, the colonel added, he hadn't meant to kill Caesar's son. But if that boy had been destined to follow in Caesar's footsteps, then the colonel was glad he had killed him. Caesar's fury boiled over. Outside the camp, Maurice, Rocket, and Bad Ape stumbled upon something unexpected: a hidden tunnel. A way into the camp. If they used it, they could sneak in undetected. Inside the camp, the colonel eventually allowed the apes in the cages to be given food and water. But not Caesar. He was left to starve, isolated, and chained. As Maurice and Rocket scouted the tunnel, Nova, heart aching for Caesar, made a bold move. Quietly, she slipped away and began walking straight into the camp. Bad Ape tried to stop her, but Nova didn't listen. She kept going. Inside the camp, the colonel ordered the red donkey to throw Caesar into a cage, alone. If Caesar was still alive by morning, he would work like the others. Outside the walls, Bad Ape told Maurice and Rocket that Nova had entered the camp by herself. Inside, Nova walked up to Caesar's cage. She tossed her doll through the bars to wake him. Then, she gently handed him water to drink. The adult apes called out to Nova, offering her food to give to Caesar. Every one of them wanted their leader to regain his strength. When they heard someone approaching, Caesar quickly told Nova to hide. Realizing she was in danger, Rocket charged into the camp to create a diversion. The red donkey stepped in, and a fierce fight broke out between him and Rocket. While all eyes were on the chaos, Caesar urged Nova to run. The colonel fired his weapon to break up the fight and ordered his men to sweep the area. Rocket was captured and thrown into a cage. Using sign language, Rocket told Caesar he had found a tunnel that led into the camp. The next morning, the colonel came to inspect Caesar's cage. Seeing Caesar still alive, he coldly ordered him back to work. Then, the colonel noticed something: Nova's doll, lying near the corner. Curious, he picked it up. He wondered, whose doll was it? While working, Caesar and Rocket used sign language to point out to Maurice, who watched from a distance, the layout of the adult and child ape prisons. Maurice instructed Nova to keep watch, while he and Bad Ape entered the tunnel, guided by Caesar's directions. Back inside the camp, Caesar warned the red donkey that wall would not save them. When the battle came, they would all die, him included. That night, after all the apes had been locked away again, Nova crawled through the tunnel to reach Maurice and Bad Ape. Following Caesar's directions, they found the correct spot. Maurice then told Bad Ape to climb up. Peeking out above ground, Bad Ape spotted a nearby guard. Thankfully, the guard didn't notice him. Below, Nova warned Maurice that water had started flooding into the tunnel. They couldn't reach the cage holding the younger apes because of a dam holding back the flow. Rocket informed Caesar they couldn't breach the cage for the young ones. Caesar quickly realized they had to act fast. The northern army was coming. If they didn't escape before the soldiers clashed, they'd all be caught in the crossfire. Moments later, a guard in the watchtower was suddenly pelted with feces. Furious, the guard stormed into the ape cages, demanding to know who did it. And then, he got hit again. The culprit was Rocket. As the guard aimed his gun, Maurice emerged from the tunnel and yanked him down. They took his keys and weapon, handing them to Rocket. He freed Caesar, and together they opened the cage holding the young apes. One by one, the children climbed up the cables and crossed into the adult cage. Then all the apes began funneling into the escape tunnel. But Caesar stayed behind. He told Rocket to go without him. He turned to Maurice and said, maybe he was right. Maybe he couldn't let go of his rage. Maybe he was becoming like Koba. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the camp. The Northern Army's attack helicopters had arrived, launching a brutal assault to destroy everything. Chaos erupted as soldiers scrambled to prepare for war. Silently, Caesar slipped into the colonel's quarters. The room was a mess, blood stains were everywhere. Then Caesar saw him, the colonel, lying on his bed, weak and broken. As Caesar raised his weapon to finish him, he paused. The colonel had already been infected, most likely from Nova's doll he had taken earlier. Blood streamed from his nostrils. He couldn't speak anymore. The virus had claimed him. The colonel looked at Caesar, pleading with his eyes. He wanted Caesar to kill him. But Caesar refused. The colonel then reached for Caesar's pistol, and took his own life. Outside, the battlefield had become a storm of gunfire and explosions. One soldier spotted the apes and opened fire on the fleeing herd. Meanwhile, Caesar had a plan. He would destroy the fuel tank near the wall. He grabbed a grenade from the colonel's table. The red donkey, loading ammunition nearby, watched as the apes were gunned down. Something in him broke. Then, he noticed Caesar trying to sabotage the fuel tank, only for Caesar to be struck down by an arrow shot by Preacher. As Preacher prepared to finish Caesar, the red donkey made his choice. He threw a grenade, killing Preacher and saving Caesar. In retaliation, furious soldiers shot the red donkey dead. Caesar, wounded but alive, pulled himself up. He hurled the grenade at the fuel tank. A massive explosion tore through the camp, engulfing it in fire. Caesar just barely made it into the tunnel before the blast consumed everything. Emerging from the tunnel, Caesar saw wave after wave of northern troops arriving. They cheered, believing victory was theirs. Then they saw him, Caesar. They raised their weapons. But before a shot could be fired, the snow-covered mountains behind the camp suddenly collapsed in a massive avalanche. Everyone scattered in terror. The apes, including Caesar, climbed high into the trees. When the snow settled, not a single human soldier remained. The avalanche had wiped them all out. The apes continued their journey across the desert. Along the way, Caesar hid his pain, the arrow wound still bleeding. Finally, they reached their destination. A new home. The apes cheered with joy. But behind them, Maurice noticed Caesar struggling. The wound was worse than he thought. Caesar told him not to worry. He believed the apes would thrive, with or without him. Tears welled in Maurice's eyes as he promised he would make sure the apes never forgot everything Caesar had done for them. Caesar smiled, and took his final breath. And so ends war for the planet of the apes. The ape species had divided into various clans. In one such clan, 3 teenage apes named Noah, Ayana, and Suna were members of the Falcon clan. They climbed the ruins of buildings to retrieve eagle eggs, as every adult ape was required to take an eagle egg to raise as a symbol of maturity. Noah, Suna, and Ayana had no trouble climbing, as the Falcon clan was renowned for its climbing skills. Upon reaching an eagle's nest, they found 3 eggs. However, they couldn't take them all because they had to leave one behind. Noah, being selfless, told Suna and Ayana to take the eggs. As Noah was about to leave, he heard something. He noticed another eagle's nest, higher up and more dangerous to reach. Being brave, Noah used a metal rod to help him climb to the top. After much effort, he succeeded in taking 1 egg, but as he was descending, the eagle's mother arrived and caused Noah to lose his balance. Noah fell but was fortunate enough to survive the fall. Once they had all descended and were about to return, Noah's blanket was stolen by someone. Suddenly, Noah saw something moving in the trees. The 3 apes immediately chased after the figure. They stopped in front of a tunnel, unsure whether to enter, as the area beyond was forbidden. Noah saw his blanket hanging at the entrance of the tunnel. Anaya smelled something strange coming from the blanket and became fearful, suspecting it might be the scent of a human. Anaya took the blanket and the group ran away. Back at the Falcon clan's village, Noah's mother, Corina, was relieved and happy to see her son return safely. Corina then instructed Noah to meet his father, who was working in the eagle's nest. Noah's father, Koro, was an expert in birds. Noah entered the eagle's nest and found his father, Koro, caring for his prized eagle named Eagle Sunday. When Noah approached, Koro didn't seem happy about Noah successfully retrieving an eagle egg. Instead, Koro asked about the strange smell on Noah's blanket. Koro accused Noah of going to the forbidden area. Noah denied it, but Koro knew the scent was that of a human. Koro decided to consult the elders about the appearance of humans, as they believed that humans would bring trouble. The elders sent Oda to track down the human responsible for the scent. That night, as Noah was repairing a clothesline pole, he heard strange noises from the kitchen. He went to investigate and was shocked to find a woman there. The woman pushed Noah and ran away. In the panic, Noah's eagle egg was crushed. He immediately told Suna and Ayana that his egg had broken. Suna tried to calm Noah down, suggesting that she and Ayana accompany him to delay the egg ceremony until next year. Noah refused, determined to retrieve another eagle egg that very night. Without hesitation, Noah mounted his horse and set off. On his journey, Noah saw several masked apes lying lifeless. Suddenly, from behind, a severely wounded Oda approached Noah. Oda urged Noah to flee. Soon after, Oda died. From a distance, Noah saw a group of masked apes approaching. He quickly hid behind some bushes. Noah observed the group, led by an ape named Silva. The apes began sniffing Oda's blanket, and realizing it had the scent of a human, Silva ordered his followers to hunt the human down. Suddenly, Noah's horse appeared, and Silva mistakenly believed that the horse was carrying the human he was tracking. Silva immediately shocked the horse and followed it back to its origin. In a panic, Noah ran back toward the village to warn everyone, but when he arrived, his village had been destroyed and burned by Silva and his followers. Silva and his group had captured the members of the Falcon clan, forcing them to follow him. Noah found Anaya and Corina, their hands bound. Anaya informed Noah that Suna had already been taken. Noah attempted to free Anaya, but a masked ape shocked him. His son then came to help. Corina urged Noah to help his father, who was freeing the eagles. Inside the eagle's pen, Noah assisted his father in releasing all the eagles. Suddenly, Silva arrived. Silva demanded that Koro bow to him, but Koro refused and attacked Silva. Silva then shocked Koro. Noah jumped in to help his father, but he was also shocked. Koro charged at Silva, but Silva brutally beat Koro. Noah tried to save his father, but Silva threw him aside. Noah managed to survive by hanging onto a ledge. Silva then shocked the rope, shouting the name Caesar. Noah fell and lost consciousness. The next day, after regaining consciousness, Noah saw that his village was destroyed. The place was eerily quiet, as everyone had been taken by Silva and his group. Noah then saw his father's lifeless body. Struggling to hold back tears, Noah buried his father. At his father's grave, Noah swore to find and save all the members of his clan who had been kidnapped. He took a broken electric baton from the site and mounted his horse, determined to follow the trail left by the apes to the forbidden area. Noah bravely entered the tunnel leading into the forbidden zone. Eagle's son followed Noah from above. Noah then found his mother's scarf. Since it was already nighttime, Noah decided to rest. The next day, Noah continued his search. Along the way, he smelled a strange scent of smoke. He investigated and, to his surprise, fell into a hole in the ground. Suddenly, an ape appeared, pointing an electric baton at him. The ape's name was Raka. Raka mistook Noah for one of Silva's followers. Noah explained that he wasn't part of them and was trying to follow Silva, who had kidnapped his friends. Raka then shared that the night before, Silva had passed through there and killed one of his friends, whose body he was currently burning. Raka survived because he had hidden while protecting their books. Noah was confused by the sight of the books, as he had never seen anything like it before. Raka explained that the symbols in the books had meaning. In Caesar's time, the apes were able to read these books. Upon hearing this, Noah remembered that Silva had mentioned Caesar's name. Raka then said that many apes today misunderstood Caesar's teachings, like Silva and his clan, who were using Caesar's name to justify their cruel actions. Noah said that he had never heard of Caesar. Raka wasn't surprised, as Noah's clan must have isolated themselves for a long time. That's why they had forgotten about Caesar. Raka then shared that Caesar was once the wise leader of the apes. Caesar had made a rule that apes should never kill each other. Raka showed Noah his necklace, which bore the symbol of Caesar's people. Raka was the last ape to follow the true teachings of Caesar. He explained that in Caesar's time, humans were many, but now their numbers were dwindling. Back then, humans and apes had lived together. For Caesar, humans were important. Upon hearing this, Noah was confused, as his clan had always seen humans as the source of problems. As Noah was about to retrieve his horse with Raka, they saw the woman Noah had encountered in the village. Noah tried to drive her away. When Raka learned that a woman had been following Noah, he decided to join him. Raka then spotted an eagle flying above them. Noah explained that his clan raised eagles. The eagle following them was named Eagle's Son, the pet eagle of his late father. That night, as Noah was busy fixing his electric baton, the woman appeared again from behind the bushes. Raka threw some food to lure her closer. She took the food from Raka, and seeing that she was cold, Raka took one of Noah's cloths. At first, Noah protested, but Raka insisted that they should show compassion to the cold woman. The woman took the cloth Raka offered. Raka sensed something strange about her. He believed she was smarter than any human he had known. Raka then called her Nova, because in Caesar's time, all humans were named Nova. Noah was curious about why Caesar had cared for humans. Raka told him that, according to legend, Caesar had been raised by humans. Noah was puzzled, wondering how such foolish creatures as humans could have raised them. Despite the oddness, Raka firmly believed the story because Caesar had been the first leader of the apes, leading with courage and compassion. In the middle of the night, unable to sleep, Noah walked around, intrigued by a large telescope nearby. When he looked through the lens, he was taken aback. He then climbed into the telescope. Nova came over and noticed the telescope as well. Seeing Nova's movements, Noah felt that she was not a threat. The next day, they decided to continue their journey with Nova. Along the way, they were stopped by a group of zebras drinking by the river. It was the first time Raka and Noah had seen these animals. Suddenly, a group of primitive humans emerged from the forest. Believing that Nova should reunite with her own kind, Noah planned to leave Nova there. Raka also decided to stay to watch over the humans, just as Caesar had done in the past. Before Noah left, Raka gave him his necklace, urging Noah to always remember the true teachings of Caesar. Noah then rode off on his horse. Out of nowhere, Silva and his followers appeared from the forest. They captured all the humans present. Nova and Raka immediately ran. Seeing Nova in danger, Noah turned around. Turned out that Silva had been targeting Nova. Silva and his followers chased after Nova. Nova tried to hide in the bushes. When Nova saw Noah coming, she stood up and screamed his name. She ran towards Noah, and he was able to save her. Raka followed, joining them as they fled. Deep in the forest, Raka freed the horse they had been riding to mislead Silva and his followers. Noah, in shock, then told Raka that Nova could speak. Finally, Nova spoke up. She was one of the humans who had been immune to the virus since birth. Her real name was May. May explained that just a few days ago, Silva and his followers had killed her parents and friends. May knew where Silva had taken the captured members of the Falcon clan. She had kept quiet all this time for her own safety. Raka reassured May, telling her that she was safe now, as she was with them. While resting, May saw Noah successfully repair his electric baton. They then continued their journey. As they crossed a bridge, Silva and his followers suddenly attacked them. May fell into the fast-flowing river, but luckily she managed to survive by clinging to a net. Raka desperately tried to help May, while Noah struggled with the situation. Just as May was rescued, it was Raka's turn to fall. Silva then cut the rope, sending Raka downstream. Noah and May were then taken by Silva to his stronghold, which looked like a massive dam by the sea. Silva brought May into a room, while Noah was taken to the area where other apes were kept. Noah was finally reunited with Suna. Suna was overjoyed, thinking that Noah had died. Elsewhere, May was placed in a room filled with books. A man named Trevathan approached her. Trevathan was also immune to the virus. He could speak and think, and he could read. Trevathan revealed that he had tried to escape once, but he had fallen and broken his ankle. In the end, he could only resign to his fate. In this place, Trevathan was forced to read historical stories for the ape leader of the stronghold, named Proximus. Meanwhile, Noah met his mother, Corina. Corina was overjoyed to see her son alive. They then heard a trumpet sound, signaling the apes to gather. The ape leader, Proximus Caesar, stood on a podium. Proximus pointed to a massive iron bunker door beside him. He was convinced that there was precious treasure hidden inside. Proximus then ordered his men to open the door. Despite their best efforts, the door wouldn't budge. Silva then set a rope on fire, creating a blaze to try and burn through the bunker door. But the door still wouldn't open. Proximus then ordered his men to stop and suggested they try again tomorrow. From afar, Trevathan told May that Proximus had been trying to open that door for months without success. May already knew that the bunker had once been a human settlement. Inside it were technologies and weapons that the apes should not know about. Trevathan then advised May not to resist the apes, as the world had already been taken over by them. Silva then brought Noah before Proximus. In that room, Noah saw that May and Trevathan were also present. Noah also noticed that Anaya had become a servant of Proximus. Proximus then spoke, revealing his ambition to open the massive bunker to study its contents. Proximus wanted to learn from the things inside the bunker so that the apes could become as powerful as humans once were. May then said that no one would be able to enter the bunker. Proximus then showed May a map that belonged to her deceased friend. It turned out that May and her group had been trying to get into the bunker to retrieve something very important inside. However, some time ago, Proximus' men accidentally killed all of May's friends. Proximus regretted this because it turned out that the humans knew how to open the bunker. He then ordered May to help him open it because he knew that May's real goal in coming here was to get into the bunker. May firmly refused, saying that whatever was inside the bunker didn't belong to Proximus. Enraged, Proximus didn't care. He declared that the bunker was in his territory, which meant everything inside it was his. Proximus then asked Noah if May had ever told him how to get into the bunker. Noah answered that she hadn't. Proximus then suggested they speak privately. He explained that he had intentionally brought Noah's clan here because he wanted to unite the ape nation. Proximus planned to create a kingdom where apes could rule. He then told Noah that humans could not be trusted. Proximus had to control all the technology inside the bunker before the humans did. The apes had to become stronger than humans, or they would be lopped away again by humans, just as they had been in the past. Later in the afternoon, Noah sat by the beach, watching a group of eagles from a distance. He then gazed at the necklace Raka had given him, reflecting on Raka's words about Caesar. Noah was sure that Proximus's earlier statement about apes being imprisoned by humans in the past couldn't possibly be true. Unexpectedly, Eagle's sun landed on Noah's hand for the first time. A plan began to form in Noah's mind. That night, Noah secretly met with May. He knew May wanted to retrieve something from inside the bunker. Noah asked what it was. May replied that it was something very important, something that could help humans communicate again. Noah agreed to help May take the item, but only on the condition that May would help him free the Eagle clan apes. May agreed. They planned to destroy the dam, allowing the ocean water to flood the bunker and destroy everything inside, preventing Proximus from taking control of it. Noah and May then met with Sunna and Anaya to ask for their help, since the climb ahead would be difficult. Sunna agreed to join, but Anaya, fearful, refused. Noah and Sunna then approached May, who was preparing explosives. Suddenly, Anaya showed up. After reconsidering, Anaya decided to help Noah. They then placed the bombs on the dam. Just then, Trevathan appeared, noticing what May was doing. May invited Trevathan to join them, but Trevathan threatened to report them to Proximus. Panicked, May was forced to strangle Trevathan to death. After throwing Trevathan's body into the sea, May and the apes navigated the steep cliffs. May instructed the apes to climb, and Noah carried May up to the top. Once they reached the top, they saw an open ventilation shaft. They lit torches and entered the bunker. They descended the stairs until they reached the bottom. May then activated a power panel, and to their surprise, it still worked. The lights inside flickered to life. After examining a map, May told Noah and the others to wait while she went to retrieve the item. While waiting, Noah, Anaya, and Sunna entered a nearby room. It was an abandoned classroom. Noah picked up a book. Inside the book, they saw an image of an ape inside a cage. Proximus's words were true, humans had once locked the apes up. Elsewhere, the item May was searching for turned out to be the satellite access key. After retrieving it, May noticed some weapons nearby. She then returned to Noah and the others, urging them to open the bunker door. Along the way, they saw rows of military tanks. May instructed Noah to move quickly. He had to get his clan to safety before she detonated the dam. When they reached the bunker door, they found Proximus already there, holding Corina hostage. Proximus ordered his men to shove all the Eagle clan apes into the bunker. He marveled at the military vehicles inside. Suddenly, an ape took Sunna hostage. Proximus demanded Noah tell him their plan, but Noah remained silent. Proximus then ordered his men to kill Sunna. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. May had shot the ape holding Sunna, killing him. Seeing this, Proximus was actually pleased. He told May she could leave, but only if she revealed where the weapons were stored. May refused. She remained determined to destroy everything inside the bunker. Noah, knowing May's plan, begged her not to destroy the dam yet, as his entire clan was still inside. But May was indifferent. She ran outside and activated the bomb. In an instant, a massive explosion shattered the dam. A flood of water rushed into the bunker, causing chaos as the apes inside panicked. Noah immediately shouted for his clan to climb to the top of the bunker. The water was quickly filling the bunker. From a distance, May stood still, watching the chaos unfold. Inside the bunker, Noah was desperately trying to save his mother and clan members. They had to climb to safety. Noah instructed Sunna and Anaya to help the others get to the entrance they had used earlier. Suddenly, Silva appeared behind them. Noah faced Silva alone, luring him into a narrow room. Due to Silva's large size, he became trapped and was swept away by the rising water, drowning. Noah then climbed upward and reached the others, who had made it to the ventilation shaft. Suddenly, Proximus appeared and attacked Noah. Furious, he beat Noah mercilessly. No one dared to intervene, terrified of Proximus. But then Noah noticed the eagles in the sky. He called out to them, and all the apes followed suit, calling to the eagles. Eagle's son then appeared, followed by the rest of the eagles. The eagles attacked Proximus, sending him falling into the depths of the ocean. Shortly afterward, Noah and the eagle clan returned to their village and began rebuilding. While they were working, Noah noticed May approaching. She wanted to speak to him privately. May was there to say her farewells. Noah told her that Proximus had been right, humans could not be trusted. But Noah didn't care. He and his clan would rebuild their homes. They would grow stronger than ever. Noah then asked May why humans and apes couldn't live together. May, holding a gun, had initially intended to kill Noah. But after hearing his question, she hesitated. Noah then gave May the necklace Raka had left behind, so that May would remember the ape who had once helped her. May then left. A few days later, May entered a settlement of intelligent humans who were immune to the virus. She handed over the satellite key to them. They began accessing the satellite, eventually succeeding in communicating with other human groups unaffected by the virus. Meanwhile, Noah and Suna were observing the sky through a telescope. Noah intended to learn from the knowledge of the humans of the past, so that they could grow stronger. And thus ends Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye.